players in the team. Keep a great company in the stream.
It's a Murali End. Welcome to the show. We're here when you're high. We're here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna when happy it's we when man it's them. It's the same place, Murali End. Sri Lanka cricket we gon' represent. So tell a friend.
Welcome to the Murali End. I'm Dominic Machado, and today I'm joined by Nick Brooks, Sri Lanka's premier cricket historian, and by Behram Qazi, who is a guest on our show. You can find him on Good Areas, and he knows everything about the cricket world, but especially an expert. And can I say fan of Pakistan cricket? Can I give you that title? Some people are a bit, they feel like it compromises journalistic integrity. We don't feel that way at the Murali End, but.
Well, it's a good question. And first of all, hello to you, Dom and Nick. And I mean, today I was driving and I get this message from Mark and I'm like, what the fuck does he want now? But turned out that I'm set to make my Murali End debut. I really enjoy the work that you guys do. Of course, Mark and Estelle are dear friends. So happy to make my debut. And I suppose with the fan thing, I definitely started off as one, but I quickly realized that if I want to cover cricket professionally, I'm going to have to detach myself emotionally from the sport and look at like the macro arcs and narratives around each team and the sport overall. So now you could say that I'm still happy when Pakistan wins, but I'm not devastated when they lose. I'm just thinking about my next show and what to talk about. So I'm desensitized, but still, sure, you can throw in the word fan, but I prefer cricket correspondent.
Yeah, there we go. So that's why we have Behram on the show. We want an actual top-down macro, to use your word, view of what's going on. And we're a fan show, so sometimes after the last match we got a little bit heated here after Sri Lanka's poor performances, but we are turning the page. We are turning to this Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Zimbabwe tri-series, and we're changing formats. We're moving to the T20 format. We've got a World Cup coming up in February. So this is it's a pretty big deal. We're going to get a chance to see how these teams stack up, how they're going to play, their strengths, their weaknesses. And these are teams that are fairly familiar with each other as well. So we'll see how they handle the fact that they know each other. So Behram, I'm going to come to you as our correspondent for Pakistan. What do you think this tri-series means for the squad? What kind of things are still up in the air that they need to answer and kind of try to rectify? And where do you sort of see them in their World Cup preparation?
It's a fantastic question. And of course, first of all, I'd like to, show my gratitude to both the Sri Lankan team and the Zimbabwean team. We're lucky that we're getting this tri-series in the first place because there was a cloud of uncertainty a few days ago. And I'm glad that that's all, handled and resolved. And sure, there were some questionable things in there, but at least we've gotten to some sort of a resolution, right? And I feel like for each team, this tri-series holds a lot of value because we're 80 odd days away from the T20 World Cup. I actually feel that Sri Lanka's T20 side is better than their ODI side, and they're going to pose a very stern challenge. Pakistan are perhaps favorites for this tri-series, but not by an awful lot. Like they could potentially lose to both of Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe. And let's not take Zimbabwe lightly either. They have a habit of beating Pakistan every now and then. Of course, they are one half of the Pak Bean Derby, which is something we all can appreciate that bit. And, they bowled Sri Lanka out for 80 not too long ago. Like that's fairly fresh in our memories. So I feel like it's going to be quite evenly contested. Pakistan under Mike Hesson in his white ball coaching tenure, which is only it only started in July, so it's fairly fresh, but they've played a lot. I think that their bowling is sorted. They've got plenty of options. It's an attack with quite a lot of variety, and they've got batting depth as well. And Saim Ayub, the fact that he's been so good with the ball really opens up a lot of, things for Pakistan with respect to balance. The fielding has improved under Hesson, which is something he was very vocal about when he took on the job. And for a Pakistan side to do well in the field, that's always news. So I suppose those two facets are locked down. But the batting for me is a concern. Now, when they dropped Babar and Rizwan, they went on this tirade saying that, look, we're going to switch to modern day cricket. If we don't make this move now, we're going to, become irrelevant. And Salman Ali Agha said that it would be his captaincy's failure if he doesn't make match winners out of Saim Ayub, Hassan Nawaz, and Mohammad Haris. Well, Hassan Nawaz and Mohammad Haris aren't in the squad anymore. They've been axed, right? So Pakistan cricket, being their reactionary selves, have already backtracked. And now you're seeing Babar Azam again, who is enjoying some form, at least at the current moment, but here's to hoping that it persists. I feel that when it comes to the batting, there are a lot of areas which need to be highlighted, and Pakistan need tons of improvement. Their strike rotation can get very, very bad. It's a dot-a-thon quite often, right? We've seen that in the Asia Cup as well. In that one game versus India, after a good power play, they played 4 post-power play overs, scored 7 runs and lost 2 wickets. And I tell you what, that's not modern-day cricket. So their words haven't really matched their actions, and their strategy, I just haven't been able to make much sense of it, because at times they play double old school cricket. It's not just old school. So strike rotation is an issue. Pakistan have their struggles versus spin bowling as well. The batters couldn't read Jeffrey Van der Say's wrong gun, who, by the way, how the fuck is that guy 35 years old? I'm never going to be able to understand that.
You see the genes here,
one.
right? You see, yeah.
I mean, you're definitely the, more intelligent Machado. So I'll give you that. But nah, Mark, we love you. So it's the spin bowling issues, or how they don't have a lot of prowess playing spin. If they don't get out, they get like kind of locked and they can't really get the runs flowing. Then, of course, dot balls. So strike rotation is an issue. Pakistan has always been a team historically which have a penchant, or has a penchant, to collapse. That's there. And I still feel they don't quite know how to pace an innings, man. Even in this ODI series, some of those knocks or entire innings, you felt that they could score more runs or score them more quickly. And sure, when you're chasing a low total, I can still understand. But in first innings, in white ball cricket, Pakistan is not a good batting team. So those are the major issues. But, they've been getting middle overs wickets in ODI. So I hope that can translate into T20Is, because that's something that is very, very important. And they do have the best bowling attack in this tournament, or tri-series, I believe. So that's a plus. But this is Pakistan. They'll find ways to lose, and Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe are more than capable of beating them. My question to you is, what is Bhanuka Rajapaksha doing in the squad in Big 2025?
Nick, as the resident Bonica stan, I'm going to let you answer this one.
As the only Bonica fan left in the world, I think what he's doing, Behram, is walking straight back into this team. Now, Charith Asalanka is not going to be here for the tournament. I mean, look, you could call this the Instability Cup, right? That I don't know what the fuck to expect tournament, because like these 3 sides are so capricious, so unstable, that anyone could beat anyone on their day. But Sri Lanka have had huge problems outside of that top 3. We've talked a lot about Patis on this show, the Pathum Nissanka Kusal Mendis combination. When those 2 fail, Sri Lanka usually lose. But KJP had a wonderful knock against India in that Asia Cup semi-final. The real problem is who scores the runs when those guys get out. So I think, given how poorly Charith's done, how Kamindu hasn't really done it in the lower order slots, there's an opportunity here for Bhanuka, I think, seen as one of the few guys of Sri Lankan heritage who can hit a 6. So he's got an opportunity here. I'm expecting him to at least play. I don't know if you feel the same, Dom. I saw that Pavan Ratnayaka had been added to the squad too. But yeah, I think this is an important tournament for Sri Lanka, right? They were really poor in the Asia Cup. And I think that coming off the back of a 3-0 drubbing in those ODIs, if they don't put up a decent showing here, confidence could get really low leading into that World T20. On a more personal note for some of the players, I noticed there have been a few who have been axed by their IPL teams ahead of this mini auction. I saw that Pathurana, Deekshana and Hasaranga have all been let go. So I'm sure there's some guys there who feel that they've got an individual point to prove. Pathum Nissanka will be another one of those guys. So I think after scoring 100 against India, has every chance in an IPL auction, especially if he can back it up with some really solid returns here.
I mean, if he doesn't get snapped up over there, we can be pretty sure that he's going to feature in the PSL this time around, right? Like, I'm a big Pathum Nissanka fan. He's averaging 45 in Test cricket, and 18 tests is not a small sample size, especially in this day and age where teams like Pakistan and Sri Lanka don't get to play a lot of the format. ODIs is still, a format where he's underwhelmed a bit. And even in this series that just went by, I felt like he got starts every time. He looked like $1,000,000, and then he got out to Haris Rauf twice and got run out as well. And that was kind of the theme for Sri Lanka in this ODI series. The balance was at times a bit shoddy. You play the extra batter, but then you compromise on your fifth bowler. And then when you don't compromise on your fifth bowler, you miss out on extra batting. And then someone needed to convert a start, and the scoreline could have been different. Also, in Rawalpindi, the toss does matter. You would want to chase over here. So I think Sri Lanka's T20 side actually looks better than their ODI side. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I'm a big KJP fan as well. I believe in Kusal Janit Pereira supremacy. And him and Kusal Mendes, they play the PSL too. So they would know these conditions better than the rest. And I feel like Sri Lanka have a pretty decent bowling attack. Thushara comes in to bowl in the power play. He can be quite handy. Chamira can crank it up, right? He's injury-free thus far, so here's to hoping that stays that way. And also, if Theekshana, Hasaranga both play, I mean, Pakistan can always falter versus spin. And then you've got potentially Darshan Chanaka sharing overs with Janit Lianage if he gets a game, or Kamindu Mendes if he gets a game, because of course Bhanuka plays, right?
I think the combination is going to be a fascinating one. So I think you obviously have your top three set of Pathum and the two Kusals, and then what happens between 4 and 7? I just shut my eyes whenever those guys come into bat, because as you said, Behram, with Pakistan, prone to collapses, too many dot balls. And it's just this very conservative brand of cricket, like, oh, we have 7 batters, but we're still not going to take advantage of the fact that we have 7 batters. So it's
8.
Very
8 batters.
8, exactly 8. And we've talked about, do you move Hasaranga up just to spice things up a little bit, just have someone who will put the bowling off their length. I think we saw this in the ODI series. Is you have a lot of batters who are cut from the same cloth, and in T20s that means guys who can bat at between 120 and 130 will take a lot of dots, and maybe if they get in, they'll get a big one. But we don't have anyone who can really shift the momentum. And that, I think, is the Bhanuka Rajapaksa hope, is that he's someone who in those middle overs will, rather than taking 5 dots and getting out, will at least swing hard. And if he gets out first ball, that's fine. But I don't think there have been many cricketers who scored more runs off of dropped catches deep in the outfield than Bhanuka. He always seems to score that way. So I think there is the makings of a very good T20 squad, but I think from a strategy point of view, they are lacking. They have, again, as you mentioned, Behram, that problem of playing spin in the middle overs. They don't have, apart from Kusal Mendes and Pathum Nissanka, there are very few of them who look super confident and look like they have game plans against spin. And I think that middle order is what's going to need testing. I'll be curious to see how Darshan Chanaka's captaincy. So this is the other big news with Charith Asalanka going home for an illness. Now there's been some rumbling as to whether it's an illness or whether it's a little mini drop here. But Darshan Chanaka takes the captaincy. Last time he took the captaincy, I think, was again against Pakistan. And then he didn't relinquish the captaincy for 4 years after that. So there has been some conspiracy about, well, is this going to be the same thing over again? So does Darshan Chanaka's captaincy change the dynamic of this team? Does it change how it's played? Does it change how it approaches those middle overs? I think it'll be an interesting challenge, because I think in the case of Pakistan and Zimbabwe, their strength in the middle overs is having these hit the deck bowlers who can really trouble them for pace. And Sri Lanka's strategy was just playing out dots or getting bowled, right? Like that was the strategy during the one-day series. So how are they going to challenge that? I think it's a really important test for them with the World T20 coming up, because you're going to face teams that like to bowl pace in the middle over, and you're not always going to get, the third string, spin bowler to bowl at you. So I think that's going to be an interesting question. I want to ask you this, Behram, where do you think Babar fits into the squad? Obviously we saw the class that he had. There was a comment earlier about asking you to compare Babar with Sir Vivian Richards, as okay, one does. But how do you think he's going to approach being back at number 3 in this squad? And do you think this is a good thing long-term for Pakistan cricket, or do you think it's something that they should reconsider? He's obviously going to play, but it's a little bit like the Bhanuka question.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a catch-22 situation because at times in the Asia Cup where you felt like someone needs to just play out the innings, a Babar Azam kind of batter could really do that job well, because if they're going to play old school cricket, might as well get the guys who play that brand of cricket well. But I still think it's a regressive move in the sense that Babar didn't really prove anything in T20s when they brought him back. I thought of it or looked at it as a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. That said, he did score runs versus South Africa in the final T20I, and he's just finally chucked that big monkey off his back, or gorilla off his back, with respect to scoring his 32nd international 100, which came after 83 innings and 807 days, which is a lot, right? So I feel like at least he won't be under that pressure anymore. And I don't think playing him at 3 is the right call. Babar, even if he doesn't get dismissed by spinners, will get stuck versus spinners. And if the power play goes on, or if your openers kind of survive the power play, then I mean, why would you send Babar Azam next? I feel like he should open the batting, and his best numbers or results come in the power play. So Saim Ayub is another case study. Does so well in ODIs, but can't seem to hold a bat in T20s. It's weird, right? And we, crunch the numbers at good areas. So in T20Is, Saim Ayub averages 8 with the bat in the first over and 14 with the bat in the second over. There's no reason he should open over here. He should definitely bat first drop. You need him for his bowling, because that's like the kind of magic trick that's keeping Pakistan competent right now, because without him, the balance just goes out of the roof, and Pakistan have the same fifth bowler issue as Sri Lanka then, essentially.
Yeah.
But Saim Ayub has batted 49 times in T20Is. He's got 10 ducks. He's batted 40 times as opener. He's got 8 ducks. In the last 20 innings that he's batted, and, there's a few of those as opener, all of the 6 ducks that he scored have come as openers. I mean, that's enough ducks to feed New Zealand at this point. So I don't know, man. I feel like they're not getting these tactical things right. And they've brought in Fakhr Zaman for Hassan Nawaz. Yeah. You're bringing in a top order bat for a middle order bat, someone who could, by the way, smash spin in the middle overs and also take down pace once the ball is not brand new anymore. So again, that looks to me, or comes across as me, to a regressive move, And if Fakhr is batting at 4, God forbid, that's what no one wants to see. You should just rotate between Saibzada Farhan, Fakhr and Babar as your opening batters. Saim at first drop, and at 4, it's similar, dude. Like, sure, Sri Lanka still have an explosive southpaw in Kamil Mishara, who takes a bit of time to get set, but once he gets going, he can pack a punch. Pakistan don't know who to play at number 4, especially with Hassan Nawaz out, because you've got Usman Khan, who's now the new wicketkeeper batter in place of Mohammad Haris. They weren't even playing Mohammad Haris in the top order. So many top order batters, not sure what to do with them. Salman Ali Agha, I still can't understand his role. Like, what is your role, mate? You have scored 288 runs in 298 balls in your last 19 innings in T20Is since the start of that tour to Bangladesh, the T20I tour.
That's wild, because he looks so good.
Those aren't even replacement batter numbers, and this guy's your captain, right?
Yeah.
So I love him in other formats, by the way. I feel like he's come leaps and bounds in Test cricket and ODIs, but it doesn't seem like he's cut out for T20s, and we're potentially 8 T20Is away for Pakistan, at least for till the T20 World Cup. So if, let's say, tomorrow Shadab Khan is fit and firing, does he not replace him, right? Like, he's a better T20 bat. He can turn the ball in both directions, and he is one of the best fielders Pakistan has produced. So that is the major issue over here. The batting order and Salman Ali Agha, what is his role? Where does he fit in? Because let's suppose, Babar comes in the power play, even if they lose a wicket early, because we know he's batting at 3 over here. They're not going to go with my, sort of suggestions. And then ultimately you've come to over number 15 or 14, and you've lost Usman Khan as well, assuming that he's batting at 4. Now, will you send Salman Ali Agha? Will you send Mohammad Nawaz, Fahim Ashraf, Shaheen Shah Afridi? Like, all of those guys get in ahead of him. So this is Pakistan's main issue, and I really hope they can figure this stuff out, because if they can, with respect to their bowling and fielding, if they get things right, they can be a dark horse at the World Cup, but at best, I suppose, semi-final run. The conditions in Sri Lanka should suit them, but then if they're going to bat the way they bat, that's not going to help. Teams these days out-bat opposition teams. Why is India so successful? Because Abhishek goes mad in the power play. Why is Australia so successful? Because Mitch Marsh has gone Bison 3.0 ever since he's quit Test cricket, right? Similar story for South Africa. They're a team that goes pretty hard as well. So... And Sri Lanka as well. I mean, I think Pathum Nissanka, he's striking at 153 this year. So that's a stark improvement. Kusal Mendes is also a transformed batter, and KJP will always remain KJP. He's an enigma that no one can ever kind of quantify. So I still feel Sri Lanka might have their template with respect to T20 batting more sorted out than Pakistan. That India game is proof, if anything, even though they weren't facing full strength Indian
Yeah.
attack. But now, Zimbabwe are going to be no walkovers over here. Sure, Blessing Muzarabani isn't around, but Sikandar Razabat is probably one of the best players on display in this entire series across all three teams. Like
Absolutely.
that guy has hit a peak which none of us thought would ever come at this age, but he's a thorough professional. He's proving everyone, otherwise. So I feel that this will be quite evenly contested, but I just fear that it might be a bit toss dependent. And I hate it when that happens because we saw it in the ODI series as well. And I mean, that does kind of take the fun out of cricket, but we haven't really come up with a solution to counter dew yet. The ropes haven't worked, neither have the super soppers, and those chemicals I think never worked either.
Yeah.
So unless we terraform stadiums, I don't think we can end dew.
Yeah, deal with it. Yeah, and I think bringing up Zimbabwe, I want to talk about Zimbabwe because I think people tend to say, "Oh, well, it's Zimbabwe." In T20 cricket, the gap is not at all big between the top 20, between like say the top 7 sides and the top 20 sides. Anyone can win on their day, and I think Zimbabwe, they're ranked 12th. They've got they have played good competitions. They play Afghanistan frequently. Obviously, no Muzarabani. Ngarava has given the Sri Lankan batters serious problems and serious issues, and they seem to have found something in opening with Brian Bennett. He looks really, really good. And then, of course, Sikandar can take the game away from you in so many different ways. He's just amazing. Ryan Burrell, Brendan Taylor. It's a shame.
Brendan Taylor, sorry, pause.
Yeah.
After corruption and cocaine, we have Brendan Taylor back in Zimbabwe's team, which is terrific. I mean, Graham Creamer is another story, but Brendan Taylor being in the squad is just flat out bizarre, and I kind of love it, right? Like, it's bigger than Bhanuka, but I feel like there are a few players over there who can really do some damage, and Garava is one. Even in Muzarabani's absence, he can, create or wreak a lot of havoc. And then you've got Brian Bennett, who is really talented. Ryan Burl is there. Ryan Burl can smash it.
There. Ben
Curran is not there. I don't think he's
not there. He had played against us and had performed well. I was going to say because he hasn't been featuring. And he looked quite good against us. Which was surprising. So, I think the thing with Zimbabwe is that on any day they can put in a good performance and beat people. And Sikandar and their spinners in the middle overs really know, because they're all these experienced guys who, maybe you don't think of them as frontline spinners, but they can tie you down if you don't know how to do it. And against Sri Lanka and Pakistan, that's going to be a real problem. And then again, they have the batting quality where if you don't get quite up to a par score, you get like a 160, that can easily be chased down by the squad, if not more. So Nick, I want to ask you a question. There was a question in the chat. Sanuda asks, we never appointed a specific player to be vice captain, but before the series, we specifically named Dawson as the vice captain. And suddenly, Charth is sick and Dawson is captain. For me, it's strange. And to this, I will add one other point. On Twitter, it was noted that there was this report that hailed him as the new T20I captain, not a replacement because Charth is sick, but they claimed him to be the new T20I captain. What do you make of Shanaka being captain of the squad? Do you think it's kind of a quiet way to kind of slip in Dawson as the potential World Cup captain here?
I don't want to speculate, Dom, but it's a series of strange and unfortunate events. Another masterclass in PR from SLC, having not named a vice captain for the ODI side. They named Hassan as vice captain for this T20 tournament, and then having essentially held their own team hostage in Pakistan, they've let Charith go home for a cold so that Shanaka can captain the team. I think the conspiracy theorists out there will be having a field day.
Yeah,
it certainly does seem strange. I mean, it hasn't escaped anyone's attention that Charith's form, especially in T20s, but across both white ball formats, has been he's been off color for a little while. So look, if this series if Sri Lanka do well in this series, I think anything could happen at that World Cup. I would not be surprised at all if Shanaka ends up as a more long-term captain. Because another, I think, interesting thing to look out for, Behram touched on how poor Pakistan have been in that phase after the power play, which we saw numerous times during the Asia Cup. So I feel like this could be a series where Sri Lanka actually kind of get like fake positive reinforcement about the 7-4 combination, the one kind of series where that part-time fifth bowler could go quite well, and then they end up saying everything's hunky-dory ahead of the World Cup, and Shanaka ends up going none for 75.
Yeah, I like that point about fake positive reinforcement, because I think Sri Lanka cricket thrives on that, in that, oh yeah, well, the 7-4 worked in this game, but the 6-5 failed absolutely miserably in this other game, without taking into context where they're playing, who the opposition is, and why it matters. I think the other big question for Sri Lanka is our bowlers can't bat at all, with the exception of Hasaranga. So that gets us into some serious trouble. And there's been no attempt to blood the young fast bowling all-rounders that have sort of come up. And it's kind of very frustrating. We see Chaminda Wickramasinghe, Chamaka Karunaratne all kind of shunted to the side. And the question for both of you, why do you think, if we're thinking about Sri Lanka and Pakistan as sort of parallel narratives here, the lack of ingenuity when it comes to tactics, right? Like Behram, you were pointing out the fact that if you actually look at how Saeem Ayub bats, he should not be batting in the power play. It's a very obvious thing. Or
just in the first 2 overs.
Or the first 2 overs, right? Yeah. Or Bubber, right? You don't want him coming in the 12th, 13th over. Right. Yeah. You want to be aware of that. And Sri Lanka have a number of those issues where they will stick to the batting lineup when very clearly on a tactical level, right? Okay, there's an off spinner bowling. They'll bring in Kamindu Mendes instead of Wanindu Hasaranga, where 1, matchup, 2, Wanindu can be a very good player of spin, and his wicket doesn't matter that much down the order. So why, sort of on a macro level, have these teams fallen so far behind tactically when it comes to making these sort of common sense decisions? Because in the 90s, right, we had all these stories about the innovativeness of Sri Lanka and Pakistan when it comes to dealing with white ball lineups and changing the way the game is played. And you had, for like the models, right? You have someone like Shahid Afridi, who becomes the model for the ideal T20 player, right? Someone who can bat anywhere in the order, who can bowl wherever, do all these sorts of things. But why have Sri Lanka and Pakistan struggled to keep up tactically here?
It's weird, isn't it? Because when T20 cricket came about, Pakistan were most suited to the format. All of their players were like T20 players. They were more suited to T20s than ODIs. And now we're seeing Pakistan as a team who are more suited to ODIs as compared to T20s. Sri Lanka were revolutionary in the 90s. Kalu Wittarana and Sanath Jayasuriya changed the sport, essentially, right? I mean, and after that, we never looked back since. So I don't understand it either. I feel like maybe there is this bubble of insecurity. Maybe the players go into this self-preservation bubble, so to speak, which Mike Hesson was quite vocal about, by the way. And I don't understand how, like, if you've dropped Mohammad Haris and Hassan Nawaz, whenever they come back, won't they be operating within that self-preservation bubble? It just doesn't seem like these guys have understood where the format has headed. England started it. Sunrisers Hyderabad took it to a next level. That IPL season is definitely an inflection point, which has changed T20 cricket forever. It's, on Nitro now. So I don't know what to say to you. Although I will say this, maybe Charith going back is a blessing in disguise, because every time I'd sit up or attempt to create a lineup for Sri Lanka in white ball games, I did feel like Charith was a bit of a liability, right? Because his form had dropped, and that prowess versus spin had fast disappeared as well. Like I didn't see, did you see his dismissal versus Abrar, for instance, right? That's not someone who's a great player of spin, at least in my eyes. So I feel like they've got some young positive players. I'm quite excited to see Kamal Mishara, actually, because I feel like he's a really powerful lad. But how to manage entry points, how to keep your batting order dynamic and fluid, and how to look at certain matchups, these are things where Sri Lanka and Pakistan perhaps have lagged behind. And at times you're like, okay, why is this dude coming out right now? It makes zero sense. And that's where I feel that even if us lay people can figure this out, then why can they not figure this out? And like,
Exactly.
it's
Right.
a science now. T20 cricket isn't like they initially thought of it as the WWE version of cricket, but now it's serious business. And there are a lot of tactics involved. If anything, maybe the most amount of tactics are involved in the T20 format. So I'm not quite sure why other teams who still play a bit attritional in this format or conservatively haven't quite cracked it.
Yeah. Nick, your
I
thoughts on
think-
this?
Yeah, I think like with Pakistan, you'd expect Hassan to kind of do some of the good stuff. I think the biggest issue Sri Lanka face in terms of like tactics is it's what Uncle Sanath says goes, right? He's the guy who is driving tactics. And like, let's face it, Sanath played in an era of cricket when it was far less professional and when there was far less tactical innovation, right? And I don't think he's never held a coaching job before. I don't think he's necessarily the right guy to be making all the decisions. And yeah, I think you combine that with a team where everyone kind of wants to bat in the same spots, right? Everyone either wants to open or bat number 4, and it just seems like problematic. And you get this situation with Sri Lanka, which I've said numerous times over the past months, where it feels like the team is lesser than the sum of its parts, and you're relying on the same guys over and over again to dig you out of trouble.
And that's the sad thing, right? Is even Kamil Mashara, to take your example, Behram, he should be opening. That's definitely his natural position. He plays pace well. He's got good power against pace. But as you saw in the one-day series and we saw in the Asia Cup, he really struggles against spin. So coming in at number 3, when you've had Kusal and Potham getting, routinely getting you 50, 60 runs in the power play, it's not an ideal role for him. And they've got to think about that. And they've got to think about, well, what's the best way to manage it? I think they have one problem that they have is Kusal Mendes is very good as an opener. He's probably also the batter that's most capable of coming down the order. When he played in the PSL, he played at 4 and 5, and he was very capable at that role. He can strike and score fast.
True.
I think they might need to think about that. I think sometimes that number 4 issue could be solved by saying, all right, Kusal, we want you to come in. And in terms of guys playing spin, he is their best player spin, no doubt. Against Afghanistan on a sort of tricky pitch in the Asia Cup, he played all the Afghani spinners without any issue, right? And I wonder what it means when you say, okay, yeah, he's a good player spin, but we're also going to have him open the innings, and then all of our middle order batters can't bat against spin. So I think that there is this issue of what do you do with these guys? Or Kamindu Mendes, he's not a 7. He's not a 7 in T20 cricket. What are we doing?
He's not a 7 anywhere. He's probably your most talented, batter in terms of like all format prowess. And we know that he can hit big. I saw him, smash the ball through the line and pull the ball really effectively. And he can hit the ball a long way. It's a power hitter, sort of a role where he completely fulfills that gap in the middle order. So why waste him at 7? Give him more time. These things I don't quite understand, but then again, we'd have to pick Hessen or Sanath's brain, and that would be a tough gig to kind of land them on the podcast.
Sri Lanka are screwing Kamindu's white ball career, though, right? Like playing.
Hey, SRH did retain him, though. They see something, right? If the most innovative cricket's batting side in the world looks at you and says, "Hey, this is a guy we want to hold on to,"
And as Behram says, he can clearly strike a ball, right? But I think there's a tendency to like misalign power hitter with finisher, right? And just because someone can hit a 6 doesn't mean that they're a guy whose entry point has to be held back till they're like 16th, 17th over.
And maybe you want to hit 6s before the 16th and 17th over. Maybe just as a thought experiment. What would happen if you
The thing is that cricket moved really fast, right? Like T20 cricket in particular, it evolved at an exponential rate. It was rapid, and teams like Pakistan were such good T20 teams, even like in like the recent past, where 2021 they would set par totals, score maybe 80 runs in the first 10 overs, then go berserk in the last 10, and they had the strike bowlers to defend those totals. And Pakistan were a decent chasing side as well, but then they got stubborn. when everyone else chose to evolve. And I feel like maybe there's a bit of that in Sri Lanka as well. But I actually genuinely feel that when it comes to impetus, Sri Lanka have the upper hand over Pakistan. I saw it throughout this ODI series as well. They do like to score runs, at least at the start in the power play. They like to score them quickly, whereas Pakistan can be a touch too conservative. So I feel like, look, they've got a decent shot at winning this tri-series. Of course, you've got the partnership of Dasun Shanaka and Bhanuka Rajapaksha, the heroes of the Asia Cup from 2021. So you never know. You never say never. But like, I think Pakistan are slight favorites because they're playing at home and they've probably got a few more things sorted because they are the best bowling team in this Tri-Nation series. So my question to you guys, I suppose, is that when you look at Pakistan, who are the main key players who you would say could, really trouble Sri Lanka or Zimbabwe?
Nick, I'll let you go for this first.
I always, as a kind of outsider, look at those Pakistan squads and think about who's not there. I'm always thinking, where's Shadab? I go way back, where's Imad Wasim? Like, aren't these guys better than some of the guys coming in the middle order? I think it's always the pace bowlers up top that you're scared of, right? You're worried that Shaheen, if he gets the new ball and gets it swinging, then takes a couple of wickets, then Sri Lanka are curtains. And I wouldn't rule out at some stage utter collapse against Saeem Ayub's left arm spin.
No, it's actually he's a right arm spinner who has a carom ball.
He's a spinner and a left arm kind of batter.
He reminds me a lot of Deekshana, actually, in terms of the way, like, not Deekshana right now, but like 2 or 3 years ago, just bowling with the new ball, getting it to do things. But Abrar also scares me. We talked about struggles against spin, and that is magnified against wrist spin of any sort. And you saw Faisal come in and just absolutely do a number on them. But Abrar, they have struggled against him in every format they've come against him, and he's a guy who scares me. The other thing that scares me about Pakistan is that if your hitters do get in and do get to bat, they can hit. Even Shaheen Shah Afridi, right? I think the thing is, once we get to 7, we're thinking, okay, the inning's over. Whereas for you, some of your better batters are coming in at 5, people who can actually make an impact on the inning are coming in there. So it's kind of a sort of, I think of Sri Lanka as a top heavy side, like they're relying on their top order scoring big runs. I think Pakistan's got that, that middle order that can do damage when you think the game is won, because Sri Lanka have this habit of they'll take 3 or 4 wickets and say, okay, we're bossing the game. And then boom, there's a partnership. And that kind of happened in the first ODI between Salman Ali Agha and Hussein Talat. And we just let them off the mat. I fear your all-rounders because they seem to do a little bit of something in every match. Whether it's Fahim Ashraf, we had trouble against him in the T20 in the T20 World Cup, T20 Asia Cup. I'm sorry. So your all-rounders always find a way to contribute, whereas we have these all-rounders who are really one thing or another, and then don't end up contributing in either way. And so I'm jealous of that sort of form of all-rounders, because we're kind of that we're stuck in this perpetual 6-5, 7-4 dungeon, as it were.
Yeah. I mean, that's really been Mike Hesson's philosophy in white ball cricket with Pakistan. He wants batting till 8. So he'll go 8-3, right? And Pakistan, I suppose, like, if you went like 6 months back, no one would be taking Mohammad Nawaz and Fahim Ashraf's name. And now they are probably the most central players which make this work, because by having Saim Nawaz and Fahim Ashraf, you are not stressed about 8 overs. You're like, okay, we can figure those 8 overs out. Then you've got 2 frontline seamers and 1 Abrar Ahmed or whoever spinner you choose to play. There's Faisal Akram, there's Sufyan Mukim. Like, they've got a couple of really good left arm wrist spinners, which is unique. I don't think Pakistan have ever had that before. So I think, yes, you're right. Pakistan probably get more destructive as their batters continue to fall. Even having Shaheen at 9 is a bit of a luxury, because he has this one shot, but when it comes off, he's hitting a couple of sixes off that shot, right? And Fahim and Nawaz have really made this click. This entire unit's success has a lot to do with how those 2 guys have performed exceptionally well. And by the way, Nick, Shadab is in rehab, and Imad Wasim has retired for the final time.
Imad's gone. So Shadab will be back, right?
Shadab might be back for the T20 World Cup. I mean, he replaces Salman hands down, no? Better T20 bat, can turn the ball in both directions, and is probably one of the best fielders Pakistan have ever produced.
Yeah. one thing I want to touch on is I want to talk a little bit about Sri Lanka's bowling lineup because, Nick, you mentioned less than the sum of their parts. This is how I feel about the Sri Lankan bowling lineup. I look at it, I'm like, Tikshana, Hasaranga, Eshan Malinga, Patirana, Nuwan Tushara, Dushmantha Chamira. It sounds impressive when you say it. You're like, oh, those guys can all play. But for some reason, putting it together and bowling as sort of a pack, right? It just hasn't worked. And Nick, I'm curious your opinion on why that is, and particularly if there's a captaincy element to that.
I don't think that Charith has necessarily been what's the word, just the cleverest with his use of the bowlers, but it's a little bit like the batting, right, where everyone seems to want to bowl in the same phases. I think to get the most out of Tushara, you want to use him for 3 overs up front. And Sri Lanka, to be fair to them, have done that a lot. But then you've got Theeks, who probably wants to operate in the power play with the new ball too. Chamira wants to take the new ball. I still don't really know who's bowling at the death. And then kind of through the middle overs, they're very reliant on Hasaranga, right? If he's not taking wickets, it can look a little bit unincisive. And I mean, I just think Sri Lanka have completely mishandled Matisha Patirana's career. Like, I feel like he's the kind of bowler who would walk into most international squads or 11s. It's pretty clear the way CSK have backloaded him. Sri Lanka don't seem to want to do that. They try and bowl him in the power play. Like, it feels like a bit of a mess. But I mean, how do you see it, Dom? Who do you see? I assume that it's going to be Chamira and Tushara as the 2 starting seamers, and that Malinga might come in as a change. And I guess Chamira's going to bowl 2 and 2 probably, and Sri Lanka would probably use Eshan Malinga in the same way.
Yeah, I think my thought is, I think the big question is when Hasaranga's bowling in the middle overs, and we saw this in the ODIs, is that if there's no one who can take a wicket on the other side, then you can just play him out. You lose
it's
very
that, like,
little.
Partnerships thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so you have to think about, who do we pair him with that's going to threaten batters on the other side. So they have to take their chances against Hasaranga, because that's when, things are either the batters just come in. Hasaranga is supremely good when a batter has just come in because they struggle to read the googly, or people are trying to attack him and he can get one by them. So I think, I think Malinga is someone who has to play a big role, and he played that role with SRH in bossing the middle overs. And watching him bowl in the one-day side, I was like, you can see why he's rated as a T20 bowler. I don't think he's figured it out in the one-day format. But if you're looking to attack him, it's going to be hard to get him for 4s and 6s, because he's bowling full, he's bowling straight, and if you miss, he's got a wicket there, right? So, yeah, Behram, go for it.
There is one issue, though. The margin of error on this Rawalpindi deck will be very, very small. It's got like tiny dimensions as a ground on its own, and then the boundary dimensions are even tinier, right? Like, they've brought them in, as you saw in the ODI series. So I feel like if you're bowling second, you're more or less screwed, because dew will eventually play a part. But I also feel that, Sri Lanka, you might have noted that there's some swing on offer in the second innings early on.
Yeah.
Tushara could be a handful, right? He's a slingy guy, and he could get some movement, and he could really prove to be, detrimental to opposition teams. I feel like Dushmantha Chamira, he needs to continue to mix it up in T20s. I saw in the Asia Cup that he would bowl hard lengths. He would also go for his Yorkers. He would vary his pace.
Yeah.
He can be very tricky to play in that regard. And then, I don't know, I haven't seen much of Eshan Malinga. I wasn't too impressed from him in the ODI. But then again, maybe, as you guys are saying, he can prove to be a good asset in the middle overs. Ultimately, it all comes down to the spinners, though, no? Like, even if there's dew, I don't think a lot of batters are going to read Hasaranga's wrong and really easily. And if they, I think ultimately it comes down to whether Sri Lanka want to play a third seamer in Malinga, or they want to go with Tikshana. Because Tikshana gives them an option to, bowl power play overs as well. And we saw him do well at the death as well in the Asia Cup. So he can bowl in all phases. although his fielding is a bit of a liability, I will say that.
Yeah.
So I actually think that Sri Lanka's bowling isn't looking all too bad at all. And it's
Yeah.
weird that you guys had all of these seamers who continued to get injured, and now it's like this purple patch where everyone's fit and firing, but Patharana's action has changed. So all of a sudden he's out of the plans and he's been ditched by CSK as well. So God knows what he's going to be up to now. I'm just interested to see what sort of tactics are used with respect to kind of figuring out the usage of the fifth bowler. Because Dasun Shanaka is going to be targeted. Kamindu Mendes is going to be targeted. Janath Lianage, if he plays, will also be targeted. Sri Lanka have that sort of hole in their team where the fifth bowler can cost them the game. We've seen this before, right? Like this happened in the Asia Cup as well. That, for me, is their biggest challenge, even more so than the batting issues.
Yeah, the fifth bowler is, it's tricky because they are playing batting all-rounders, right? And they're not, and we're just hoping that they don't get smashed. And then, God forbid, one of your four main bowlers gets hit around, right? You can't take them off because there's no one reliable. You can't say, all right, we're going to go to our fifth bowler or our sixth bowler and have it bowl three instead of two or one or whatever it might be. So that is a certainly a big issue. I think part of that is there's no good options right now. Like Nick, looking at that squad, Shanaka is the best we have for a fifth bowler, and Charith had kind of turned into the 5-6 bowler, the guy who will bowl a couple of overs of off spin. So I think it's going to be where they fit that in and how they use that is going to be important. I think the power play, back end of the power play, could potentially be a place where you get an over of Dawson. I think you can bowl Dawson at the death as well. He's done that time and again in his career and been, I wouldn't say he's been good, but he's playable in that. And then the thing is, you probably don't want him bowling 4. You probably want to limit it to 1 and 1, and then where are you going to use? And again, this is where the analytics come in, as you said, Behram. How do you generate matchups? Like where you can, because I look at teams like South Africa or New Zealand and Glenn Phillips and Aidan Markram. Those guys are not, like it's not as if they are extremely talented spin bowlers who are making the ball talk. They know how to be effective in the T20 format against the matchups they can be effective against. And we just haven't harnessed that skill. And we have guys who could potentially do that, but they haven't come up to that level.
I think it's really interesting that if we look back to the last T20 World Cup, when we were all saying that Shanaka did no longer deserve to be in the side, right? Kind of had to be dropped. I think now, if you look at Sri Lanka, we're in a situation where Shanaka's completely undroppable. Like any prospect of him not being in the 11 for the first game of the World Cup is unimaginable, right? But I just think Sri Lanka have got to be brave enough to say Hasaranga bats in the top 7, and if Shanaka isn't one of your best 6 batters, then he's not in, because I just don't see this as a sort
that's
of
the solution, right? It seems very obvious. If you have Hasaranga batting in the top 7, then you have a lot more. I mean, you may have a short batting lineup, but the way the batters they're batting aren't going to make a huge difference anyway, right? You're still top order dependent whether you play 7 or 8 batters, and so I think you just have to use Hasaranga as that. I think honestly he could bat at 4 or 5, and it's a good entry point in the middle overs against spin, And I think one of the problems is we evaluate cricketers by, are they getting 50s or 60s? But for Hasaranga, for batting Hasaranga at 4 to pay off, he just every couple matches he needs to go off for
30 or 50.
That's all. We're not asking him to hold down an innings or do any of those things, but just give us that flourish in the middle. So we'll see what they do. I want to let's wrap this up, but I want to ask 2 questions of Behram before we go. So the Pakistan Shaheens put on a awesome performance against India A, and I was watching the highlights of that match. There's some seriously talented cricketers. Any of them from that side looking to break into Pakistan's full squad? Maybe Maz Sadakat?
Not before the T20 World Cup, but
Mhm.
I feel like, look, a lot of these guys have played a lot of T20 cricket, and I mean, if the likes of Babar, Fakhr, and whoever else is there as a senior member, maybe barring Shaheen, because he obviously you need him, right? As a
Yeah.
left arm quick who can take first over wickets, which is his USP, and he can smash it with the bat.
Yeah.
So I feel like some top order spots might open up if Pakistan have an unsuccessful T20 World Cup campaign. And Mas Sadakat is really tough to overlook because you've got a young, explosive southpaw who can, roll over his arm as
Yep.
well. And he is hitting those unorthodox shots as well, like that reverse sweep for six that we saw. He is someone who, as opposed to maybe, let's say, the crop of Babar Azam and all, those guys grew up by listening to coaches who kept ingraining different sort of qualities or traits into their batting. Put a price on your wicket, don't play aerial shots, high elbow, right out of the Sunny G manual of not stupid cricket, right? So these guys now, the likes of Mas Sadakat and, the younger lot, there are a few of those names in there who I'm blanking on. Irfan Khan Niazi is another one, right? I feel like they are now getting developed and nurtured in an era where they are encouraged to play those expansive and bold shots. And so you are seeing a different sort of mindset and, a different set of skills come to the fore. And ultimately, Pakistan need to make that switch anyway. So, there's a big notion over here that you send these guys to first-class cricket to develop. I don't think T20 batting assets need that. You don't need a perfect technique. You just need to be effective, right? So, sure, if you are like an ODI batter or a test batter, I think there's value in red ball cricket. You need to be playing it, right? And even if you're a bowler, as a spinner, you can hone your skills. As a fast bowler, you can get some miles in your legs and be more attuned to, bowling longer spells, which is useful in ODI cricket as well. But the likes of Mohammad Haris, Hassan Nawaz, and perhaps throw Mas Sadakat in there, although I haven't seen him in red ball. Maybe he's good, maybe he isn't. I'm not quite sure. But I feel like you can prepare certain assets just for white ball cricket, and this kid has shown us that he can definitely, create some shockwaves and cause some damage because, 31 ball 50 and then unbeaten on 79 or 47, also taking 2 for 12 with the ball. It was India A versus Mas Sadakat in many ways. So it is obviously, a welcome victory. And this is something that Pakistan needed at some level, I suppose, because it's been quite the opposite everywhere else. India has beaten them more often than not and very, very consistently. And the odd Pakistan win is literally the odd Pakistan win since, I don't know, that Junaid Khan series back in 2012. That's the last time I felt like Pakistan completely knocked India out. So ever since that, the victories have come in isolation. In order to kind of, become a more modern white ball team, eventually you're going to need those sort of batters who can put the pressure right back on the opposition and not just continue to farm strike and just, block the ball. Because at times with Pakistan, we've seen either they try to smash it or they dead bat it.
Yeah.
That's not going to work over here. You're not prime West Indies to make that work,
This is West Indies 2016, right? This
exactly.
And on that note, I will point out two guys in the Sri Lankan emerging squad who have put up some exciting performances. Vishen Halambage had a fun 28 off of 13 against Afghanistan, where he took Ghaznfar to the cleaners a bit before getting cleaned up. So he's a guy, again, right, in terms of looking for players who are white ball players, who are aggressive in their intent. I don't think he's going to make it into the Sri Lankan squad before the T20 World Cup, though he was in the Asia Cup squad, and we know with Sri Lankan cricket, anything can change. And then the other guy to point out is Milan Ratnayaka. He scored a 41 from 17 in the first match, and then he's been in the wickets. So if you're looking for that seam bowling all-rounder, unfortunately, he's 28 years old, but he's a guy who shows that he can hit a long ball, can bowl, can contain at least, right? Maybe he's not going to be the greatest wicket taker you have, but as a fifth bowling option, that's not bad. And if someone who can hold the bat, right? And great fielder. Nick, you saw him on the ground in England, right?
One of the best catches I've seen live.
Yeah. He's a guy, I think, who could potentially start to solve some of these problems, but we also have to commit the big issues, Behram, that Sri Lanka is facing is we bring these guys up hoping they're going to be, the sort of round peg in the round hole, put them in the wrong position and then drop them. So, we need to be persistent. And I think having him as a potential number 8 could be a good way forward to get your third seamer in, get someone who can reliably bowl overs, can field, and potentially can give you quick runs. It's not a bad option for me. All right. But before we go, guys, predictions for the series. Behram, as our guest, we'll start with you.
Just a bit on those two guys you mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the first one. I haven't watched him play, but I remember Milan Ratnayake from the England tests, and I was like, okay, new seamer. Sri Lanka seem to be producing a lot of those, and then this guy does well with the bat. So, I mean, I'll take your word for it. He seems to be an Abbas Afridi-esque sort of cricketer, at least from what you've described. And weirdly, he's not anywhere close to Pakistan's full team, which is also odd. But yeah, I mean, I think you guys make sense. You need someone at 8, maybe a Marco Janssen type figure, maybe not with the ball, but at least someone who can smash some sixes. So Milan Ratnayake could be that guy. And my predictions, let's make Zimbabwe win.
Nick?
Just to echo your point about Vishen Halambagade, I'm really excited about him too, especially as I realized the other day, having followed his career for like 18 months, that he's my friend's little brother and that I played cricket against him the last time I was in Sri Lanka. So I'm pretty slow on the uptake, not particularly observant.
How do you look when you played him?
He looked really, really good, although he was playing against like drunk old authors, but he was hitting everything for 6. They actually delayed his entry point so he could win. So, I mean, I think that tells you all you need to know. And had he batted like another over and a half, we definitely would not have. I am not going to predict a winner because every time I do this, it goes horribly wrong. But I will predict that it's going to be worth watching from start to finish and that there's going to be some surprises or at least some weird shit going down.
I mean, that is.
You've got to predict a winner, though. I went with Zimbabwe, dude.
Okay,
just have a little fun over here.
Go on, Behram. Let's do it. Sri Lanka to do the clean sweep. Not going to lose a game.
Okay.
All right then.
Okay. Now I'm going to make it different. I'm going to pick Pakistan. I think they're playing good cricket. I think, as Behram said, they've got more stuff settled. And I think over this number of games, if you have more stuff settled, you'll eventually come out as the best team. I'm not saying that there aren't going to be upsets. That I think it's likely that Zimbabwe takes a game off of both sides. And they could very well make it to the final. You never know in these tri-series, because then they become about particular matchups over and over again. But I like Pakistan to win it. I think Sri Lanka make the final. But what I want to see from all these teams, because I you know what? I genuinely enjoy seeing Pakistan, Zimbabwe, and Sri Lanka, of course, do well. I just want to see them play good cricket. That's my hope for the series, is that they play good cricket and that we can go into the World Cup saying, okay, we've seen a little taste of what can be, and maybe they can push it forward for a win. So
I'll tell you what, though. They're going to play stupid cricket, and we're going to leave this tri-series with more questions than answers, because this would be classic Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and well, let's not throw Zimbabwe in there. Because,
they don't need to be smeared like that.
they don't deserve that at all. But yeah, look, I'm interested, quite excited, in fact, for this tri-series as well, because tri-series are just more fun than regular bilaterals. You get some context, you get a final. I think it just makes way more sense to have more and more of these, and at least we can like finally hope for a final or whatever, because it's just more fun to watch. So yeah, I mean, it was a pleasure, guys. I think some good conversations were had, and let's hope we get to enjoy this tri-series as well.
Absolutely. And here's for some great and stupid cricket, which we know we will see over the next few days. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night.
It's the Murali End, you're in the place to be. Analyze the players and the team. Keep a great company in the stream.
It's a Murali End. Welcome to the show. We're here when you're high. We're here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna when happy it's we when man it's them. It's the same place, Murali End. Sri Lanka cricket we gon' represent. So tell a friend.